Gabriel slammed the car door like a punchline. "Let's see how she gets back," he laughed, his voice slicing through the humid Italian air. I stood frozen on the cobblestone street, my words caught mid-sentence, swallowed by the sound of tires screeching away. The taillights curved around the corner, disappearing into the night. His friends laughed, loud, drunk, distant now. Just dust. Silence. "He's coming back," I told myself. "He has to. This is just one of his twisted jokes." The locals at sidewalk cafes glanced over, half interested, half concerned. I tried to look casual, normal, but my hands were shaking. The knot in my stomach grew tighter with each passing minute. Then an hour. Then nightfall. I didn't even know the name of the town. Earlier that day, I'd begged Gabriel to slow down on the wine at lunch. But he was already 3 drinks in, surrounded by his old college buddies, reliving their glory days like they still meant something. "She's always controlling you, man," Pete smirked, ordering another round. I'd suggested we head back to the hotel. That's when Gabriel followed me outside, stumbling, slurring, but his anger was clear. "Crystal." We didn't argue. We exploded. "Your purse has your passport, right?" he sneered. "Then you'll figure it out. You're so smart, always telling me what to do." Then he left. Just like that. By the time the sun vanished, the charming postcard of a town had turned foreign and sharp-edged. I counted my cash.
80 euros.
37 American dollars. No cards. Gabriel had offered to hold them earlier because my purse was too full.
Kind, right?
I wandered until I found a tiny pensione above a bakery. A woman with kind eyes and flour on her apron showed me to a room with a narrow bed and a cracked sink. She didn't speak English, but she saw me. She understood something had gone wrong. 27 calls. All to Gabriel. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I tried Pete.
Marco.
Every one of those men in that car.
Blocked.
Not a drunken impulse. A plan. Sleep was a broken thing that night. Hope kept waking me up. Panic kept me from going back under. By morning, I convinced myself he'd return. With a smirk and a cruel excuse. It was just a joke, he'd say. You're overreacting. We'd go home. Pretend this was just a bump in our glossy Boston life. Him, the architect with charm and status. Me, the wife who quit her design career to schedule dinners and decorate our perfect world. But he didn't come back. The next day, I ate a single panini, walked the town's edge, peered into hotels, cafes, searching for the tour group. They were gone. Florence, probably. I was a deleted detail. On the third day, a cafe owner noticed me lingering. He gave me free espresso. Then directions to the police. The officer was sympathetic, but unmoved. Like this wasn't new. He filed a report. That was all. That afternoon, I walked to a pawn shop. Pressed my wedding ring against the glass. 2 carats. Upgraded for our 5th anniversary. Gabriel's idea of a gesture. The shopkeeper barely looked at it before sliding a few bills across the counter. It was enough. America, he said, pointing. Call family. I nodded.
But no.
Family meant shame. My mother's I told you so. Friends meant pity. I didn't want pity. I wanted air. I wanted out. The bus station was dim and still. The departure board blinked with cities I'd only read about.
Rome. Bari. Brindisi.
I traced connections in my mind. Buses to ferries. Ferries to elsewhere. I hovered over my father's name in my phone. 1 tap and I could go home. Back to that life. The quiet, careful shrinking of myself to fit his world. I remembered Gabriel laughing, hiding my design portfolios like a joke. Why complicate things, he'd said. We don't need the money. I need you here. At the time, I laughed too.
Now?
I saw it for what it was. A cage. Where you go? The ticket woman asked, her eyes soft. Greece, I said, surprising myself. The furthest coastal village you can get me to. 14 hours later, I stepped off the last bus. My legs ached. My phone was dead. My stomach hollow. The scent of salt and olive trees filled the air. No map. No plan. No language. Just hunger. Exhaustion. But also something else. Something fragile and new. Freedom. I kept walking. Blisters stung my feet. Sandals meant for cute cafes, not dirt paths. My water bottle had long since run dry. The sun burned. Trees shimmered like coins. I remember thinking, olive groves, and then nothing. My knees gave out. I hit the ground. A voice reached through the darkness. Fias meo. Kyria. Then hands. Wrinkled. Strong. A woman's face appeared. Lined. Kind. Full of worry. She offered water. I drank. Enough to sit up. Elena, she said, pointing to herself. Alexis, I whispered, echoing her gesture. She helped me to my feet and led me toward a farmhouse tucked into the olive trees. Inside, herbs hung from the ceiling. Something simmered on the stove. A man appeared, sun-darkened skin, silver mustache. Nikos, she said. He nodded at me, guarded but not cold. They fed me soup.
Bread.
Water. I cried trying to explain. They didn't understand, but they didn't need to. They saw me. That night, they gave me a small room. White walls. A single bed. A handmade quilt. I slept. In the morning, there were clean clothes folded neatly on the bed. A cotton dress. A cardigan. I dressed. Entered the kitchen. Elena smiled and handed me coffee, bread, honey. For the first time in days, I was warm. Federal scene. And then guilt crept in. I was a stranger. A burden. I had to explain. I had to move on. With a translation app and shaky words, I tried. But when I told her I needed to return to the village, Elena's face fell. Elena shook her head, firm but kind, pointing to the rain tapping at the windows. Then to my swollen, blistered feet. Stay, she said. Rest. It was one of the few English words she knew, but it carried the full weight of a mother's command. I tried to leave more than once, purse in hand, shoes laced. But each time, she met me at the door, her eyes quietly pleading. Guilt pinned me in place. On the third day, she took my hand and led me to the mantel, opened a small wooden box. Inside, photos, edges worn soft with time. Her finger trembled as she pointed to a young woman. Elena's eyes. Nikos's smile. Sophia, she whispered. Then she pointed far away. Australia. Her eyes filled with tears. She made a cradling motion, then held her hand at waist height. A child. Grandbaby, she said, showing me another photo, tiny fingers wrapped around someone else's thumb.
No, see.
It hit me, quiet and deep. Elena had lost her daughter to distance. Maybe more. And now, I was the space filler. The surrogate. But instead of feeling used, I felt her ache in my bones. I nodded, quietly hung my purse back on the wall, and stayed. Life on the farm unfolded in slow, earthy rhythms. Elena showed me how to gather eggs without startling the chickens, how to hang laundry so the wind kissed it dry.
Nikos taught me to weed the garden.
I pulled an herb by mistake. He only chuckled. My body, once sculpted in gyms and stretched on yoga mats, screamed at the new labor. But with every ache, I felt something returning, something real. In Boston, I'd mastered controlled living, balanced schedules, edited emotions, clean kitchens. Here, I dirted my hands, formed new calluses,
Slept like the dead.
The endless loop of Gabriel's betrayal slowly dulled. My mind no longer circled his name like a drain. Out here, there were tomatoes to pick, phrases to learn, a kitchen to sweep. And at night, on the porch, as Nikos smoked and Elena knitted, peace would creep in, soft, uninvited, steady. 2 weeks in, Elena sat beside me as we shelled peas, her eyes searching mine. Home, she asked, her voice cautious. You want go home? She motioned. America, the place I'd fled. The word knocked the wind for me. Home meant Gabriel. Our brownstone. Marble countertops. Control disguised as care. My voice, my space, my dreams. erased slowly enough that I didn't even notice. The tears came fast. I tried to explain, words crashing over one another. She couldn't understand most of them, but pain speaks louder than language. When I finished, Elena placed her hand over mine, then touched her heart, gestured to the land around us, then to me. Her meaning was clear. I was wanted, not needed, not tolerated. Wanted. Work, I whispered, mimicking Nikos pruning the trees. I stay. I work. Elena's face bloomed. She squeezed my hand gently, like we'd just agreed on breakfast, not the direction of my life. The next morning, before the sky even thought about light, she woke me with a tap on the door. Held out old work clothes. Sophia's. The boots were too big. The shirt hung off my shoulders, but it felt like armor. We walked into the grove. Stars still blinking above. The trees stood ancient and silent, waiting. Elise, Elena said, pointing to the branches heavy with fruit. She showed me how to rake the olives into nets. My first try sent down more twigs than fruit. Nikos smiled, corrected me without a word. By mid-morning, my arms burned. My hands stung. But something deep inside, something buried, glowed. At lunch, Elena examined my red palms and laughed. Boston lady hands, she teased, disappearing into the house. She returned with a salve that smelled like beeswax and herbs. Rubbed it in gently. Tomorrow better, she promised. She was right. Each day, I grew stronger. My technique improved. My pride deepened. Eventually, I could work beside them for hours. No complaints. Just sweat, sun, and quiet satisfaction. Harvesting was only the beginning. Sorting was brutal in its precision. Under the pergola's shade, we separated perfect olives for oil, blemished for second press, bruised for soap. Elena hovered at first, correcting me, then less, then not at all. You learn fast, Nikos said one night, his English improving, like my Greek. I beamed at the words more than I ever had at Gabriel's compliments, because this one was earned. In the kitchen, I became Elena's shadow. Boston had made me a recipe follower. Here I had to feel my way through. No measurements. No timers. Just instinct and touch. My first loaves were disasters, burnt, undercooked, ugly. But Elena tore them open anyway. Smiled. All learning is waste, she said. I think she meant. There are no wasted mistakes. Her acceptance shocked me. In my old life, errors were sins. Here, they were steps. I started noticing everything. The eggs still warm from the hens, vegetables sun-kissed, herbs picked moments before dinner. My body responded. The pounds Gabriel had obsessed over melted off. But I wasn't shrinking. I was strengthening. My reflection in the mirror startled me. Brown skin, bright eyes, softer edges in some places, sharper ones in others. I looked more like someone real, someone alive. Evenings became sacred. Elena showed me photo albums, black and white memories of a life I hadn't lived, but somehow connected with. She'd once been a teacher. That surprised me. You? She asked, mimicking typing. I showed her my designs. My old work. Projects I'd shelved under Gabriel's disapproval. Elena studied them. Pointed. Smiled. Beautiful thinking, she said, tapping her temple. It wrecked me because it mattered. She saw me. One rainy day, she taught me to knit. My scarf came out crooked and thick, a mess of missed stitches. But it was mine. Handmade. Honest. I made more. A mug with Nikos at the wheel. A basket taught by a neighbor. They weren't perfect, but they were real.
And real was enough.
After 3 months of room, board, and no money, Elena and Nikos took me to a small building near the grove. Bottles of oil lined the shelves. Our harvest. Market day, Elena said, pointing at the calendar. You come. The village square buzzed with life. Color. Music.
Dust.
Farmers, artisans, locals, tourists. We set up a simple table, oil, soap, jars of olives. And then they surprised me. put me front and center. I spoke in broken Greek, they translated in broken English. We laughed. People bought. And as the sun dipped behind the roofs, Elena pressed an envelope into my hand. Your part, she said. I opened it. A handful of euros. Nothing extravagant. But it was mine. Earned. For the first time in years, money with no strings.
No manipulation. No guilt.
That night, I tucked the envelope under my pillow. My fingers kept reaching for it. In 10 years of marriage, Gabriel had made sure I never had financial autonomy. To keep it simple, he'd said. A system that kept me small. Now, this envelope felt like a key. And as I drifted into sleep, I realized I hadn't thought about Gabriel once all day. His shadow was shrinking. And in its place, me. The invitation came casually, but I felt it in my bones. Dinner at the village taverna. My first since arriving. Elena handed me a blouse from her closet. Soft, floral, borrowed from another time. I smoothed it over my hips, nervous and unsure, but ready. The place was alive with sound. Cutlery clinking, bursts of laughter, a warm buzz of voices bouncing off the stone walls. Stavros, the owner, greeted Elena and Nikos with a joy that only comes from decades of shared history. Then he turned to me. Our American, Elena said proudly in Greek. Stavros smiled and led us to a worn wooden table tucked into the corner. Their regular spot, it seemed. Over grilled fish and sweet village wine, Nikos cleared his throat. His voice, when it came, was careful. Alexis, we want talk business. I froze. Had I done something wrong? Was it time for me to leave? Elena reached for my hand, steady and warm. We old now, she said with a small smile. 68, 70. No children here. Sophia not come back. Nikos nodded, his eyes focused and kind. We think retire soon. 2, 3 years. But olive trees. He motioned toward the air like he was blessing it. 200 years old. Need young hands. The truth unraveled slowly, word by word. You learn fast, Elena said, her eyes crinkling at the corners. We teach you everything. Then she opened her hands. A silent offering. The business yours. I forgot how to breathe. They were offering me not just work, but legacy. A life. I was a stranger. A foreigner who collapsed in their field. I don't know enough, I whispered. The soil, the oil, the numbers, you learn, Nico said. We teach.
No rush.
And just like that, something inside me shifted. The apprenticeship began. Each day, Nikos took me deeper into the groves, explaining the way soil changed taste, how the trees whispered when they were thirsty, what disease looked like before it struck. He moved through the land like someone who spoke its language. Elena trained me in the business. Ledgers written by hand, a dusty laptop her grandson had set up years ago. Her tracking system was basic, but functional. That was where I could give back. At night, I rebuilt their records. Created formulas, filters, summaries. One evening, I showed Elena how to track which oil blends sold best at which markets. She stared at the screen, amazed. Boston Lady Brain, she said with a grin. Good for business. With their blessing, I added flavor notes to the bottles. Updated the tags. Wrote brochures about their old world process. Our stall became a small destination. And the village began to open. The pharmacist lingered longer at the market. The baker's wife invited me for coffee. Stavros placed our oil on every table in the taverna, proudly pointing out our label. Good for you, good for me, he said with a wink. Word spread. 2 restaurants in nearby towns reached out. A small ripple but growing. 6 months in, I stood at the back of the village church, watching the baptism of the butcher's granddaughter. The priest, in his tattered robes, greeted me afterward with a warm smile. You bring new life to Old Grove, he said in halting English. Village needs new blood. That was the final gate. After that, the invitations flowed. Name days, beach dinners, a festival committee meeting. And then there was Yana, the weaver whose market stall stood beside ours. She was sharp, steady, widowed young. Something about her reminded me of my college roommate. The one Gabriel said was too opinionated. We spoke in a mix of languages. Gossip, business, life. One afternoon, as we packed up our things, she asked, "You never speak of America. Family? Friends?" The question slipped under my skin. "My parents are gone," I said. "A few friends, but—" I drifted. Gabriel didn't like them. Yana tilted her head. "The husband who left you in Italy?" I nodded. "His name is Gabriel. And he never looked for you?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I haven't checked." She raised her eyebrows. "Maybe it's time. Not for him, for you. To close the door." Her words clung to me. That night after dinner, I went to my room, turned on my old phone. It still worked, barely. I connected to the farmhouse's Wi-Fi and opened my email. Hundreds of unread messages. Old friends. Casual hellos that turned into worried questions. Shame bloomed. I'd vanished. One subject line caught my eye: job opportunity from my former mentor. A remote consulting role. Sustainable building materials. She'd kept the door open. But then another name stopped me cold. Gabriel Davis subject. "I know where you are." My heart thudded. I opened it. "Alexis, it's taken months and a private investigator, but I've finally tracked you to that backwater in Greece. This has gone on long enough. I'm coming to bring you home and end this ridiculous tantrum. My flight lands in Athens on Thursday. Be ready."
G.
3 days. I stumbled downstairs. The phone still clutched in my hand. Elena looked up from the ledger. "Bad news from America?" she asked gently. "Gabriel," I said. "He's coming. Thursday." Her eyes narrowed. She reached beneath the ledger and pulled out an envelope. "Good timing," she said. Was waiting for right moment. Inside, a legal document. My name. Hers. Nikos's. English and Greek. Partnership agreement. 1/3 of the business. Mine. Not someday.
Now.
I stared at the paper. Tears blurred my vision. Not a favor. Not charity. A stake. A future. "You choose what happens Thursday," Elena said. "You have home here. Business here. Friends here." She pointed at the phone. "That man? He no longer decides." For the first time since Italy, I felt anchored. The next 3 days, I prepared. Not to leave. To stand firm. I visited the village lawyer, drafted divorce papers in both languages. I emailed my mentor. Said yes. I reached out to old friends. Short, honest notes.
No επαλεγείς.
Just the truth. Thursday arrived like any other Greek summer day. Blue, bright, cloudless. I was in the shed with Nikos, testing oil samples, when I heard the sound of a car. Elena appeared at the door. Her face was calm. "He is here." I wiped my hands on my apron. Stepped outside.
Gabriel stod vid sidan av en talsedan.
Silver. Immaculate. Sunglasses perched on his head, a button-down shirt pressed like armor. He was scanning the farmhouse like it offended him. He didn't see me at first. But I saw him. And for the first time, he looked small. Out of place. The man who once consumed my life now seemed less. "Gabriel," I called, voice steady. He turned. His eyes widened. He scanned me head to toe. The boots. The tanned arms. The kerchief over my hair. "My God, Alexis. What happened to you?" The old tone was there, disapproval, confusion, entitlement. Once, it would have knocked the wind out of me. Now, it bounced off. "Life happened," I said, walking toward him. "What are you doing here, Gabriel?" He took off his sunglasses, sliding into that familiar, polished charm. Arms open, voice casual. "I've come to take you home, of course. This has gone on long enough, don't you think? Whatever point you were trying to make, this isn't about making a point," I said, cutting him off. I stayed well outside his reach. "This is about making a life." His smile faltered. Behind me, I heard the soft creak of the farmhouse door. Elena and Nico stepped out, saying nothing, just standing there. Quiet witnesses. A wall I didn't know I'd needed until I saw them. Gabriel noticed them, his gaze sharpening. These the people you've been staying with, he asked. Are they holding you here? Because if they are, they're not holding me, I said, voice firm. They've been teaching me about olive farming, about generosity, about a kind of love that doesn't ask for anything in return. I motioned toward the groves behind us. I'm part owner now. We run a business. He blinked, trying to process. Then that familiar condescension flickered back into his expression. A business? He gave a short laugh. Alexis, be serious. You're a designer, not a farmer. What is this? Some eat, pray, love phase after our fight. He took a step forward, lowering his voice. I admit it. I shouldn't have left you in Italy. It was stupid. Drunken.
Eve apologized.
You've apologized? I repeated.
When?
In what world does tracking me down and demanding I come home count as an apology? His jaw tensed. The mask cracked.
Fine, he snapped.
I'm sorry I left you in Italy. It was immature. It was wrong.
Satisfied.
Why now, Gabriel? I asked. It's been months. Why come looking now? He shifted, casting a glance at Elena and Nikos. Can we talk privately? In the car, maybe. They don't speak English. And I have nothing to hide. Why now? He exhaled, the first sign of something close to vulnerability. Your parents' old friends started calling. People from the club. Clients showing up at the house. Asking questions. It's starting to look bad for your image, I finished. He looked stung. Our image. Our life. The one we built over 10 years of marriage. No, I said. The life you built. I was just there. An accessory. Did you even notice how miserable I was before Italy? Did you care? His face darkened. We had a good life, Alexis. A beautiful home. Financial stability. Status. What else could you possibly want? Purpose. Connection. Ownership over my own choices. I turned, motioning to the small farmhouse, the grove beyond. I found all that here. In a place you'd call primitive. In a life you'd mock. This isn't you, he said quickly, a note of panic in his voice. The Alexis I know and trade comfort and position for, manual labor and poverty. I smiled. For once, he was absolutely right. The Alexis you knew wouldn't have. But that woman died in Italy. The day her husband drove off laughing. The woman standing here today made different choices. At that moment, Elena walked over. She pressed a folded paper into my hand. Our partnership agreement. Even without understanding the words, she knew what was happening. I opened the document and held it out to Gabriel. I have legal ties here. Ownership. Responsibility. I'm not playing house in the countryside. I'm building something real. And I'm valued. For who I am. Not what I make you look like. His face flushed. Anger rising. This is ridiculous, he hissed. Whatever game you think you're playing, it's not a game, I said. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out an envelope. These are divorce papers. Already filed. The terms are fair. Division of assets. You won't be cheated. He stared at the envelope like it was poison. You can't be serious. I'm not throwing anything away, I said calmly. I'm choosing better. For me. I took a step forward, slipped the envelope into his frozen hand. You left me, Gabriel. You laughed. You walked away like I was a joke. You just never thought I'd get up and walk on without you. He looked down at the papers, then back at me, shocked. Angry. Wounded. You'll regret this, he said, but his voice was hollow. When the romance wears off and you're still hauling olives at 60, you'll remember what you gave up. Maybe, I replied. But I'd rather live with the risk of my own decisions than the certainty of yours. Nikos stepped forward then. He placed a weathered hand on my shoulder, his presence grounding. He looked at Gabriel and said something in Greek. Come. Final. What did he say? Gabriel asked, his voice quieter now. He said the road back to Athens is dangerous after dark, I replied. You should leave now to make it before nightfall. Gabriel stood there, still trying to rewrite the ending in his head. But there was no rescue.
No reconciliation.
No return.
This was goodbye.
Without another word, he turned, walked to the car, and drove off, divorce papers still in hand. I didn't watch the car disappear. I felt Elena's fingers slip into mine. Together, the three of us turned back toward the house. My house now, too. Inside, dinner waited. Oil samples needed cataloging. Market prep still to do. The work was real. The life was mine. He left me in a foreign country thinking I'd crumble, that I'd come crawling back. Instead, I found roots. And in trying to break me, Gabriel had accidentally set me free.